today. So every day we start fresh because we can't affect the past, but we damn sure can make a difference today.
Welcome to episode 77 of Shop Talk. It's Kari.
And Jennifer.
And we are back to recap 513 of The Rookie and 113 of The Rookie Vet. Both of these episodes really showcase the ensemble cast that they have and were a nice change of pace.
Yeah, I thought that the episodes were good.
Mm-hmm.
So we don't have much news, just there's no new episode descriptions, but I'm sure that there will be as soon as we finish recording or drop this episode. But 514 of The Rookie, titled Death Sentence, and 114 of The Rookie Feds, titled The Offer, will air next week. Promo photos for Rookie Feds 114 were released, and there's still none for The Rookie, which they've been coming out later anyway. So I'm kind of not surprised, but I mean, before we know it, we'll be getting the sneak peeks and all of that. So yeah. And Eric and Roslyn released a new episode of their podcast, He Said Ayadiho. So be sure to check it out because it's absolutely hilarious as usual. Yeah. And you never know what kind of like fun facts or spoilers Eric will share.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't even think that he really realizes that he doesn't until he's just like talking, and then he's like, well, shit.
Like I have
At least I assume, I don't know.
Yeah. So that's about it for the news. I mean, not much, but yeah. So do we just want to hop right on into the episode?
Yeah, probably. We have quite a lot to talk about.
Yes.
So we'll start off with The Rookie. And honestly, like the fact that it was titled Daddy Cop and like it literally just has to do with the cold open. Like that's why it's titled that. Like cracks me up so much. And so with that, the cold open was basically John and Celina were doing like a routine traffic stop. But they literally like barely got like, I don't know, a few feet from the car to like do their usual routine. And there was a garage band singing a song, and the singer was Xander Hawley, and he wrote the song called Daddy Cop. And in this instance, it's referring to Nolan, which, I mean, no surprise there, really. But it was just funny that like Celina was singing along to it.
It was funny as like Nolan kept walking up, and as he's walking up, the garage just like continues to shut.
Yeah, it was so funny. I was like, wow, they are so determined, like on both sides.
Yeah. At first, I thought that cold open was kind of like, I don't know, I was just like, okay, there's been better ones. But as it just kept going on, I was like, this is a good one. Because it wasn't like fast-paced music or anything. It was like a kind of a slower-ish song. So it was funny.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And I mean, just the more I heard like Lisette sing it, like later on in the episode, she'll sing it, it just like, it got it stuck in my head a little bit, not gonna lie. So yeah, it was fun. But we'll kind of start off with the heat wave and blackout because those went hand in hand in this episode. And I thought it was nice that we got a roll call scene like we hadn't had the majority of the group, I should say, in one scene in one place.
Yeah.
In a little bit. And I don't know, it just gave me very much like season 1 vibes. I know someone, I think one of our listener thoughts mentioned that, but just the fact that like Gray was kind of testing Celina, and it was very much, like Gray used to quiz John on things as well. And so
it just sucks because like we didn't have Nyla in there, we didn't have Tim in there, we didn't have Angela. I mean, we had Aaron, but we didn't really see him, and Lucy was like in the back. So I was like, oh, like this is a good roll call scene, but not everyone's in it.
Yeah, like it's the same but different, or similar but different. Yeah, and so in this case, Gray was asking Celina what the acronym is that applies to heat waves, and she like looks back to Nolan, and he's like trying to mouth it to her, but she mistakes it for cheetah when in reality it's cheap. And the letters stand for like C's, check your partner, like check in with people. H is for hydrate, E is for eat light meals during the day, A is to avoid prolonged sun exposure, and P is to pace yourself. And so Gray also just tells them to, make smart choices, conserve their energy, and because it like these types of extremes bring out interesting calls and things for them. And of course, Gray wants to know why Celina didn't know the acronym. And so he asked John to stay behind for a second. And he's like, so did you guys study it? Or did you and she forgot it? Or did you forget, like, to actually have her learn this? And I like that John he didn't outright say, like, oh, it's, like one person's fault. But like
Right.
Gray still was like, well, she's going to ride with me today so I can see what else she may or may not have forgotten to learn. And so when Celina finds this out, she asks John, is there anything I should avoid while riding with Gray? And he's like, well, avoid the tarot cards, anything about astrology, any feelings or vibes or hunches, or just anything
Like
really.
basically don't be yourself.
Yeah. So they kind of went back and forth, which, they always kind of do a not similar gag, but just, like be yourself. Don't be yourself, but not too much yourself, kind of things like that. And so do you get to see Celina and Wade out on patrol together, which I thought was nice.
Yeah.
And I love when anyone speaks in a different language, which I know for like feds, there's like French.
Right.
And so the rookie, they have Spanish. It was just fun to hear Lisette speak Spanish. Her character, Celina, was talking to a transient, telling them that they should consider going to the cooling center because it is so hot out. And as they're kind of, I guess, walking down the road a little bit, she spots some suspicious activity outside of I said hardware store. I think that's what it was. And since Gray kind of knows how she usually is, she tries to backtrack and not go right off of a feeling or a hunch. So she talks it out, and they discover that there are two men that are hauling saws into a truck, and each one of the saws that they're stealing is at least $900. So it's $9,000 they've approximately got there. And since the blackout, you can't use any machinery in that time. So like debit cards wouldn't work. And so no one really has $9,000 worth of cash lying around. Therefore, they decide that a crime is being committed, so they should intervene. And so Celina approaches them and asks if they paid cash or card, and they try to make a run for it. I thought it was so not funny, but just like Gray like hit the guy like once and he was down. And I was like, okay, like score one for them. And the other guy didn't really move at all, stepped down from the truck pretty much. And Celina was saying, okay, turn around.
Yeah.
So it was it ended up being a fairly simple call for them. And there were a lot of cuts in this episode, I guess, is what kind of not threw me, but just it was I don't know, just different. Because then it cuts over to obviously John and Aaron are working together today, and their first booking is a man who kicked over a little girl's lemonade stand, which rude. And like threatened them just because they, charged $1 per cup of lemonade. Like the guy needs to chill out.
And also, like, it's a little girl's lemonade stand. You're
Right.
lucky she's not charging like $5.
Yeah. It's almost like, and it's almost like a rite of passage as like a kid anyway. At least like that I can think of is, selling lemonade to
Yeah.
learn about things like that. So it's just, yeah. Um, but so they're processing this guy and the lights go out again. And in roll call, Gray had kind of, I don't even know how to say it, like anticipated the time that it would take for them to turn on. So he kind of did a little countdown and then
Yeah.
kind of, like pointed or snapped his fingers, and the lights actually did come on from the backup generator. But when Aaron tries to do it, it's not working. And so they decide to go check it out downstairs and see what's going on. And so when they arrive, they see two other quote unquote cops checking out the power source, but they claim it's not working. Like they've tried everything, it's just not happening. And obviously they're acting a little suspicious. So Aaron asked them what precinct they're with. And I love how as soon as he reached out to shake the one guy's hand, he just pulled him down. Like I thought that was a cool move that they did. And obviously it was a trick because the LAPD does not have precincts, rather they have districts, and there's not even a 57th one like the guy made up. So that's how they knew they were lying, which I didn't really, I mean, like I was aware of this, but just hearing him say it solidified it that they're not precincts. Like that's New York. It's not a West Coast or LA thing, rather. And I think this is one of the spots where I thought the cuts in the scene, like to cut over to a different scene, didn't really work because it cuts off before we hear the real reason why the two fake cops were there.
Yeah.
The one guy was like, we're not trying to steal I can't speak, to steal the generator, we swear. And they're not buying it. But then it cuts and it cuts over to a different scene, which I'll get into later, but then it cuts back and we find out why. But it just, I don't know. I mean, I guess there were just a lot of smaller storylines going on that needed attention, which, I mean, was great in the big picture. There were just a lot of cuts. But anyway, so the real reason why they were there was that one of their friends was in lockup, so they figured they could cut the power and get them out. Even though Nolan explains to them how locks and keys don't need electricity because it's not a maximum security, jail. And so they kind of dug their own graves there a little bit because they really didn't need to go to all that trouble, but they did. So that's why they're being arrested. And since all of this nonsense has gone on with the backup, like for their power, Gray has to kind of deal with that and the rest of the pending issues that go along with it. So that's when we find out that he put Celina in charge as command post lead, which I thought it was kind of not funny, but just like Aaron was very much like accepting and was saying how, oh, this is a good thing, right? And John's over here like worrying himself to death over the fact that, oh my gosh, they don't give these assignments to, people that have less than 5 years on the job.
Right.
And, like I said, Aaron was like, well, that's good, right? And John's not exactly thinking about the benefit for Celina. He's probably thinking about what Gray thinks about his training of Celina, though. Like not exactly, which I don't know, just a different kind of curve for John.
Yeah. Or like what Celina could do that would then come back on John. Yeah. He's definitely freaking out more about like what could happen to him.
Yeah. And another nice kind of change change of pace was Lopez being in the interrogation room together, which I thought was
Yes.
nice. And they're interrogating one of the fake cops, and discussing the charges that could be brought against them. There's destruction of government emergency equipment, grand theft, impersonating an officer, attempting the rescue of a prisoner, carrying a firearm. All of these are felonies, and they go through the list, and Angel's like, felony, felony, felony. So I just thought that was fun. And so I don't even know if the guys had names. The one guy they're talking to was like, well, what if I, have something better? Like, what if I can get you something better that can, so I can get a deal if I give you something better. And so he mentions that he has some information about ghost guns, which I guess are untraceable weapons that are being sold. And so Angela and Wesley are interested. It kind of, again, does a cut, and it comes back. And Metro is called in to assist in this new lead that they're running regarding the guns.
Yeah.
And it cuts back over to Celina. Poor Celina, she was overwhelmed, and you could see that something was bothering her, but she didn't tell Gray anyway when he came up and asked how the calls were going and where she was at with them. But obviously Tim could sense that something was off, and so he offered to step in and help her learn the ropes. And I don't know, I just thought it was nice. Like, it was just a nice, like, moment for Tim, because, like, you really wouldn't think that, season 1 Tim anyway would not really do that.
Yeah, season 1 Tim would never.
Yeah. And again, cuts away before we get too much further into that scene. And we find out that Angela is going to be the undercover officer for the Metro operation. And the people are using a pharmacy as a front to sell the guns. And Metro is watching from the security cameras in the pharmacy, which are kind of their eyes and ears for this mission. And Lieutenant Pine and Kevin Hicks are the two that are from Metro that are mainly assisting. And I think Pine was the one that had texted Angela and was like, Eric Mills is on your left. He's, one of the major players in this operation. And she receives that text as she's giving the quote unquote pharmacist her prescription info.
Yeah.
And Eric came up and asked where he knows her from. And literally, like, before Angela, she does like the comeback of, you don't want to know me. But seconds later, the guy's pulling a gun on her. And I was like, what the heck? Why? Like, come on. They haven't even, I don't know. It was just very fast. And like, I didn't really, yeah, it was just really fast. I just wasn't expecting it to happen that quickly.
I just don't like how she continues to have guns pulled on her. I'm like, can we not? Like, last episode, this episode, no more.
Yeah. And then the blackout causes issues for them again because they lost visual, so the cameras went out. And luckily, though, John and Aaron are there to go in as backup, but they don't really get very far before Angela dropped her purse on the floor, which was the signal to hold. And she did this until she got the pharmacist to give her to actually like pull out a ghost gun and have the money be exchanged, so then they could kind of swoop in and pick them up for the actual crime. So I thought that was good. I don't know. Angela was just like a boss. She always is, but it was nice to see her do that.
Well, and knowing now that like Angela's pregnant and like she's walking into these things by herself, basically unarmed, and just like hoping that it goes well. Oh
Mhm.
my gosh, it's stressful for me.
Yeah. And so we cut back over to Celina. She's worried about her mom, who's shut in. She doesn't really, she hasn't left her house in years. And she finally tells Tim all of this, and he, says, well, we can clear it with Gray and we can go do a welfare check. And I don't know what it was, just like Eric's Spanish was fun to hear in this scene too. I mean, like even when he said like Juarez, like just the way he said it, like the character's last name was fun.
It was nice to see him with a rookie again. I mean, we kind of saw him with
too.
like Aaron as a rookie, but yeah, it was good.
Well, that and he got to, say like boot.
Yeah.
So like that was fun.
He got a couple of boots in or whatever, and I was like, yes.
Yeah, definite season 1 throwback there as well. And I don't know, it was just cool of Tim to go along with Celina's, I mean, I call it a white lie. It's kind of a big lie though, to tell her mom that she's working the desk at the district when really she's out and about in the field.
Like, getting her later in the episode, like, no big deal.
Yeah. And I don't know what it was about the birds that Celina's mom had, but literally like the names, I don't know, just Lorca and Neruda, like all I could think about was Pablo Neruda for the second bird. Like, I don't know, like the poet and like the, politician / poet. But Lorca, I don't know where the heck that came from. I don't know if that's like an actual like artist, since Celina's mom was like, I paint.
I didn't even hear the names, so I'm glad that
yeah, I don't know.
Going on.
I don't know. But yeah, if anyone else like figures out maybe if the names are actually indicative of people in the artist world, let me know. I'm always curious about things like that. Yeah, and so because like Tim was like, well, I have a backup generator in the shop, like I can go get it. And then, she's like, well, don't like worry about me. And he's like, it's not for you, it's for the birds. So he is very just smooth and, easy to kind of sway Celina's mom to kind of listen to what they're saying.
I mean, the man is just like soft at this point. He would never like Tim Bradford has had the best character growth in this entire show. Like, you cannot tell me otherwise.
Yeah, definitely. And so we got the much anticipated group scene.
Yes.
Which was so funny.
It was great because it was all the couples, but I really wish that Celina, Aaron, and Gray, Aaron, and Celina were all there.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Poor John and Bailey just wanted to have their shrimp scampi and their wine. And then I just thought it was so on brand for Nyla to show up first.
Yeah.
And then, oh my God, just Wesley asking, can I charge the car? Like the man just was like desperate. He was like, oh, okay, you have okay, I need to charge the car.
Yeah.
And
even how Lucy showed up.
Yeah, no, I know.
I loved it all.
She was like, can I have tequila?
Yeah.
But at least she was like, oh, I'm sorry. Like, were you not a part of the group text? And I was like, I'm honestly surprised John remembers that he can text on his phone. Like, the man doesn't really seem like, well, because he like would FaceTime Henry, who we haven't seen in a minute either.
Yeah.
Or call, but he didn't really like I think it was that one time he tried to text Grace or something, and he was like, ruminating over it for like 10 minutes or something, trying to come up with the perfect text message. So I just don't really think he's that big of a texter.
It's just funny too that like he's on a group text, but like he's like so oblivious to it all.
Yep.
So oblivious.
Yep. And so it kind of again cuts away, come back to a different scene. Eric Mills is looking at 15 years for selling the guns, but he eventually comes up with the like major score to give them for a deal. And that is Prentice Kingston, aka the King of Fentanyl. So one of, I guess, Prentice's lieutenants buys from Eric. So he's like, well, if I give you him, you guys can give me a deal. And so Wesley's working on that. And Angela and the rest of the team will go try to see what they can do about Prentice. And again, this is where we caught, well, Celina was singing as she was setting up the shop, and Gray comes out and, just reminds her that the evaluations or like tests that they go through are not supposed to be a punishment. They're supposed to make you better at the thing that you're worst at, which in Celina's case is asking for help. And so she kind of understands that, and she kind of, like, this second chance day for her still has a little bit of testing of her knowledge, because when they're at the scene, well, the fentanyl house anyway, Gray is asking, okay, well, like, what's the move here? Like, you're a senior officer on scene. Right. What do we do? And she's like, call a sergeant. Oh, great, you're here. And oh my God. And I just thought Erin's like smile was so cute. I was like, everyone's just so supportive of her. I just thought it was great.
I just love how Celina was like, call a sergeant. Great, you're here. Like, let's get started. I was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
I loved it.
But Gray kind of, doesn't let her off the hook that easy. She does eventually kind of say her plan, and she calls on the radio for them to set up a perimeter to, like, give them additional units so they can call out and get them to surrender. And so, like, I didn't really understand when Nolan and Gray were talking, and I kind of thought it was funny because Celina looked a little confused too when when after her and John came back from, like, their initial survey of the house. Nolan and Gray were like, hey, we're gonna do a smash and grab, and I was like, what does that even mean? And then it was like literal smashing, like hitting the guy's car with the shop, and then the grab part of it is so Gray and Celina could go into the house and get the little girl that they saw from earlier out of the house, because obviously any children with where there are drugs being made is not a good situation at all. And so Celina goes in first, like, through the side of the house. The one, I don't even know. Again, I don't know if any characters had names aside, because that wasn't, I don't think that was Prentice. That was like doing the blending or mixing of the product. I don't know. But that one guy was just kind of in the zone doing his own thing. And she managed to make it out of his line of sight before he turned around. But then he noticed that the door was open. Then he closed the side door, so then Gray couldn't get in.
Yeah.
And she makes it, she kind of sneaks across a little bit, across the hall, and goes into the girl's room, but the girl is like,
she's on an iPad. She's busy.
Yeah, she's like booked and busy. And I originally thought she wasn't going to react at all, and then all of a sudden she just like screams as soon as
I thought
Celina...
she was like, I don't know, she obviously had headphones in and was like watching her tablet or whatever, but I figured like she, like you said, like wouldn't react or just wouldn't really like know what's going on. But the screaming, it was like blood curdling screams. So it's like, whoa, okay.
Yeah. And it cut through kind of the noise because it made the one guy turn off the rest of the like mixers and start to go see what was wrong before Gray attempts to get him to surrender. But a fight ensues, as it usually does on this show, and poor Gray ended up like dropping the gun because the guy was hitting his hand so much. And Thankfully though, John like gets gets the gun before the other guy could use it. And so John and Gray are fighting these two guys, and in the midst of all that, the fentanyl tables get flipped over, which releases the drugs into the air. And Celina was just coming around the corner with the girl, and she sees the like mist, if you will, come up, and she's like, oh crap, like we need to get, somewhere where it's not going to get to us as quickly.
Yeah.
And so she kind of runs into the next place that she sees, which is the bathroom, and she gets the girl out through a small like space in the bathroom window, but she can't exactly get herself out of there in that space.
But someone had to have known that she was still in there, because someone took the little girl.
Yeah, I know. I kind of wish we would have seen like who took the girl, because I didn't know who she handed her to.
It just doesn't really make any sense that like no one came back to try and get her.
Well, I mean, John did, but it just...
Yeah, but like whoever took the little girl wasn't like, oh, guys,
Yeah.
there's someone else like in the house.
Yeah.
I don't
know. Yeah, so I mean, like Jennifer said, eventually, it is realized that Celina's not outside with them. And so John goes back inside to get her. I mean, she was smart though. Like she tried to put a makeshift mask over her nose and mouth. It just wasn't. I mean, it was, fast.
Yeah.
And so John gets Celina out of the bathroom, carries her out, and Aaron gives her a couple doses of the Narcan. And so that was good. I was worried though, because like the first dose didn't do it, and I was like, okay, she's not waking up yet. Come on, Celina, like wake up. You gotta wake up. But she did eventually. And I thought it was it works for the rookie that the first thing she said was like, my hand. You're crushing my hand.
Yeah.
Because John was really, really worried about his rookie. Understandably so. I mean, everyone was. But yeah, so she does end up going to the hospital though, just to, get
make sure
properly
everything's
checked out.
good.
Yeah. And Nolan and Gray and Aaron all check in, which I thought was nice. And apparently she's up for a medal because of her actions. And John being John. Do you know what this reminded me of now that I'm thinking about it though?
What?
Is oh wait, hold on. 211.
Yes.
A little bit, the 211 scene.
With the bear or whatever.
Well, I mean that, yeah, just the fact that, people from their group like came in to check on another one of the members of their group, but then also John taking credit for something that he was not responsible for.
Yeah.
Because I mean, like he kind of did it a little bit, when Lucy was like, well, how did you find me? And John was like, that was thanks to my, genius policing
cop skills or whatever. Yeah.
And in this instance it was kind of like, oh well,
like,
a rookie, like a rookie's up for a medal, doesn't that mean that I get one? And Gray's like, no.
Yeah.
Like shut up. No. So yeah, I mean, I get that he was like joking, but at the same time though, I was like, dude, like just
like, dude, read the room.
Yeah. Like just no, it was not your time to shine, sir.
I thought that this episode, and especially the stuff with Celina, had a lot of parallels to like previous episodes. Like Gray kind of questioning Celina, that was a lot like John, or Gray questioning John in season 1. But even like him taking Celina underneath his wing, and then also just like, I don't know, like her going in trying to save a kid, like I don't know, there were just a couple of parallels that I was like, oh yeah, like this is definitely paralleling season 1.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Even like her, I don't remember, did we get a scene with like John or Lucy, even Jackson in season 1, where it was like, okay, you're the highest, or like you're the officer on the scene with the most seniority. What would you do now? Like, did we ever get that in season 1? I can't remember.
I mean, aside from like Plainclothes Day, where they were kind of all in charge of
Yeah.
their own scenes, I don't think so, but I don't know.
Which, like, I wonder if we're gonna get like a plainclothes day for Celina.
Hmm.
I hope so.
Hmm. Yeah, that would be nice. And so for, well, the last two little pieces of this story anyway, Celina does end up FaceTiming her mom and kind of dresses the corner of her hospital room to make it look like she's still at the office, even though she's not. Um, I don't know. I thought that was a nice moment because we hadn't really. I don't know. I mean, like we met Aaron's family, but his family was so dysfunctional.
Yeah.
It was just nice to see something slightly different in dynamic.
Yeah. Especially because like we knew about Celina's sister, so it was nice to meet her mom too, and kind of see like, oh yeah, Celina does have more family than her sister.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And of course, I mean, this is towards the end of the episode, but Nolan and Bailey going to the Four Seasons because it has power and can get them away from the chaos that is, taking over their house is absolutely hilarious.
It's
And
like the couples have, the kids have.
yeah,
It's hilarious.
yeah, it was just great. And like I said earlier, all they wanted to do was have their shrimp scampi and their wine, but John being John, of course he can't turn anyone away
No.
because they're all his friends. So I get it, but at the same time, I was like, okay, fine. Like you guys, did this to yourselves. Like, but you would think. I mean, I don't know, because the house is like it's a big house. Like I would have thought there would have been like one moment where they could have had something,
Yeah, and like one area where they could have gotten away.
but maybe
I
not
mean,
if
they
the
were
kids
just
have to
hanging out in the
nap
family
or
room or in the
yeah,
living room.
yeah. I don't know. Yeah. So that was kind of it for the heat wave and the blackout portion. And so next up we have a little bit of, it was like Lucy and Nyla's case,
Yeah.
involving this strange smell that's coming from a storage facility. And Lucy's investigating it like first because she was the one that took the manager's call. And unit number 15 has the strange odor. And when she pries it open with the lock cutters, she and the manager discover that it wasn't an animal that got stuck and died in there. It's a dead body. So it is now a homicide. And so that's why Nyla's called in and she kind of offhandedly identifies the victim as RJ Cash. And he was a career scam artist who liked to target the elderly, apparently. And so, like, RJ was not the only thing that they found in that storage locker. There was like a bunch of kind of stolen property that, could have been stolen or maybe grifted. So Nyla tells Lucy to get as many serial numbers as she can to track down like which items belong to who. And later on, when she checks back in, Lucy's got over 100 items cataloged and 30 victims to assign them to. And while she was doing that, Nyla had tracked down RJ's last employer, who was Beatrice O'Malley. And when Nyla interviewed her, she said that RJ had set up her online banking, and Nyla kind of looks at her and warns her that she needs to check her accounts because RJ usually wipes out the targets that he hits, and so takes all their money. I guess I maybe didn't catch it. I'm just thinking about it now. Like, Beatrice didn't seem too concerned. even
Right.
after Nyla, like, she didn't really heed Nyla's warning. And so I guess I
Yeah.
kind of maybe should have picked up on it. I don't know if other people
Mhm.
did, because I didn't actually watch the rookie live. I just live tweeted Feds.
I
But
didn't pick up on it, but I was also live tweeting, so there was a lot going on anyway. But I mean, I did think that she was very like calm about it.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, that's kind of odd. But we've also seen that before with one of the suspects where they kind of like thanked them or something, wasn't it?
Mhm.
I
Yeah, I
kind
mean
of
that
remember
ended up
commenting
being
on it.
her. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, yeah, and so again, lots of cuts happening in the episode. Y'all can take a drink every time I say that or something. Just kidding. Probably don't do that. But so a little bit later on in the episode, the cause of death was reported to be poison, and Nyla was just kind of, I don't know, just kind of talking aloud, kind of to herself, not really to Angela, because Angela was like, am I expected to know what the heck you're talking about? And she's like, no, never mind. And she had kind of realized that Beatrice's caretaker also had like a tremor, which was one of the symptoms of the mercury poisoning that RJ had. And so maybe whoever targeted him was targeting the caretaker, whose name we find out later is Sharona. And so when Nyla kind of puts those pieces together, she brings Beatrice back in again and asks if she worked at Mercy of St. Vincent's Hospital. And she did. And during the same time she worked there, 9 patients died from heavy metal poisoning, from mercury to be exact. And they were her patients. So
Mhm.
that kind of seals the deal that Beatrice was the one that had been doing this. And a little bit of a twist was that she thanked Nyla for catching her. And I just like wasn't expecting it. I was like, okay. She
Even
just said
Nyla was
thank
caught
you.
off guard.
Yeah. Like it was bizarre. But yeah, so that case was closed, and it was nice to see another like Lucy and Nyla scene, or a couple
Mhm.
scenes. So
Yeah, this episode definitely had a lot of different pairings that we haven't seen in a while, if ever, because the
yeah,
John or the Wade and Celina and Tim and Celina. So
yeah, definitely. And speaking of Tim, we had his journey to find a new job, and it wasn't even his journey that he was on. It was everyone else trying to help him.
I think that was the funniest part is he was just as oblivious as John with
Like,
everyone
no.
coming over as Tim was with this. Like Tim
Yeah.
had no idea.
Yeah.
And I love how no one told him still.
No.
Like at the end, it was just like, yeah, you did this on your own.
Yeah. I was honestly surprised that Smitty didn't blab.
Yeah.
Like once Lucy talked to him, I would have been like, oh my God. But
I
maybe not, because
know.
then he would have not gotten like the favor.
Right.
So if he had talked. So
Which the favor, you know what? I don't put it past him.
I can't. I was just like, wow, we hadn't seen that set up in a minute. So I was
I
like,
know.
okay, fine. Like,
I know. For a minute, like I was kind of shocked that he still lived like in the
yeah.
van and everything. I was like, really? But
Yeah.
I was like,
In
all
the,
right,
in the
Smitty. I
lot.
mean,
Yeah. Crazy. But yeah. I kind of thought it was funny that like this storyline kind of started with Smitty in a way and ended with Smitty. Like and Chenford.
yes.
Because we see Tim as court liaison sergeant. He has his own, not really like, I mean, it's a separate space, but it's like a one kind of not connected table, but just like a, spread out space that he can kind of just sit and,
Mhm.
compile all the papers that he needs for various court dates for other officers. And it's just too funny because he manages to get Smitty to go to his assigned date by telling him that he gets overtime and not just like comp pay for doing so. And he was like, I worked here for 20 years and no one told me that. And just, I mean, that's just it. That's just Smitty for you. He doesn't take the time to investigate anything further. He just kind of takes what anyone says as it
Yeah.
is, so no wonder he didn't realize that there
But
might have been.
yeah. You would think though that he would like kind of investigate, oh, do I get more money for this or whatever? But he was just thinking overtime and thought that's it. That's all that I get.
Yeah. Yeah. And so like we had mentioned earlier, Tim wasn't like in the roll call scene, but after roll call, Lucy comes over to his desk and asks how he's doing, and he kind of lies, saying that he's good. And she was like, now wait a minute, we said we'd never lie to each other. And Tim was like, well, that was a lie. And Lucy's worried that he's miserable, but he insists that he's fine, and actually gives her like her own court paper as well before she jets off to her first call. And
he's just like smiley about it too. I'm like,
yes,
please, you're giving her a court date
but
and
it's
you're
just,
still so smiley about it.
but he's like, Lucy's his girlfriend now. They're
I
like official.
know.
It's so nice.
I know.
So and Lucy, being the worried girlfriend that she is, later on when she's at the storage locker, asks Nyla if, can we get Tim in on this? Because I'm trying to find a way to keep him from losing his mind. And she just wants to, help him out in the best way that she can. But there's not really any. Nyla was like, it's not even anything to do with the courts. Like, why is this a thing? But she kind of senses that Lucy's a little desperate, and so she likens the situation to trading players when there's a salary cap in, I'm assuming, football. I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe not. And so she's like, okay, like, say Tim wants to go to Vice, but then McNichols wants to go to narcotics. Like, you can't just have, like, you can't do, it's not as simple as Lucy's making it out to be.
Yeah.
And Lucy had kind of, well, Lucy being Lucy, kind of is still, she's very persistent with it, and wonders if Hicks from Metro could potentially be a good transfer, because if he's up for it, then Tim could take his spot in Metro. But Nyla warns her, like, even though, okay, yeah, sure, he has kids at home and, like, he might benefit from a different schedule, it's, sergeants don't like to be manipulated, and they talk. So then the next time, if she were to want a favor, she might not get it if she messes this up, basically. But she's not one to be deterred. She ends up dropping by Hicks' office real quick, or at least I didn't actually know if it was a separate place or if he was just setting up somewhere in the district, like while they were there before the raid. But anyway, the spot that he's in, and mentions that tomorrow's a great babysitter if he were to ever need someone. So kind of like setting off a favor chain in a way, like, if you do this, maybe then this can happen, and da 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 da. So I just want to know, like, so I wonder if Lucy would have started the group text to be like, well, yeah, maybe, because Tim wouldn't have necessarily been in that group text.
Right.
Because I just want to know how they all decided that John's house was going to be the house that they were going to, like, do.
Because it's the only one with power.
Oh, right. That's true.
But, like, who shared that information? Because it wasn't John, so it had to have been Bailey.
Yeah, I don't know. But
unless
anyway.
Nyla was like, I know that John's got like a generator, so let's just all invade his house. Nyla would be the one that says that too.
Fair. Yeah, so we cut over to John and Bailey's house, and they're all trying to figure out, the best place that Tim can end up. And John had the idea of Hicks leaving Metro. If he goes to IA, then Remington can move to Motors, and then Watson can go to SWAT. And if Halsey comes over to Metro, then there's still a spot open for Tim, which very random, but like the way Nathan said Halsey was like odd.
Really?
Like Melissa, yeah, because Melissa came in next and said the same name and said it like Halsey. Like I don't know how, I can't explain how he said it, but it didn't sound like Halsey was
I'm
the
gonna have
word.
to go back and listen to it.
But anyway, not important, just something I noticed. And so then Lucy, with her idea is to have Fuji retire, then Halsey can go to Metro, and then someone named Madison can go to Robbery, and then Prim will go to Vice. And then apparently Jones can go to SWAT because they like the other two people like hate each other or whatever, so they can't do that. So then Jones has to go to SWAT, and then ta-da! You think everything's solved, but then Lucy realizes, well, the only person that can convince Fuji to retire is Smitty.
Yep.
So they have to rely on Smitty for help.
I just love how like this was like a game. Like they were like puzzle piecing this together. And it makes me realize like, so the chain of command and like who moves where next is just well known in the LAPD apparently. Or at least like within the higher ranking officers, P2s, like rookies probably don't understand that. So
yeah. And honestly though, like Nolan trying to stall was so funny because he was like, oh hey, yes, hi, you're here because da 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 da, and Tim's like, is that Lucy's car out there? Like, what is everyone doing? What's going on? And John's like, oh yeah, sure, no, you can come in, that's fine. I mean, but at least it gave everyone a chance to get rid of the
the
murder
evidence.
board.
Yeah.
Or the job board, but it's a police show, so murder board, basically. And it cuts over again. I mean, obviously we get the nice moment of Tim being like, you okay? And he's like talking only to Lucy, like making hard eyes at Lucy.
Yeah.
So they're just being a total couple and it's fine.
But like Bailey and Angela gave each other a look as they sipped their wine.
Yeah, that's true.
I don't know. I don't know how to interpret that scene. If
I feel like everyone has to know. It's just in the, what's that, like the white space or the blank space?
Yeah.
I don't know.
But like Nyla didn't really seem like fazed by it in the beginning. I don't know. Like maybe it's just Bailey and Angela like have like a feeling. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, if one of them knows, I feel like all of them have to know.
Yeah, but I feel like at the same time, though, it's like Chenford. I mean, yeah, their dynamic has changed a little bit, but it's like Lucy caring so much about Tim hasn't really changed.
Right.
It's like they both would do anything. I mean, heck, season 2, Tim Bradford, was not going to take a sergeant job.
Right.
Because he hadn't finished training Lucy yet. And so I think it's just, I don't know, like maybe, well, John Nolan aside, maybe other people just kind of know there's something a little bit different, but are just kind of like, well, maybe it's just, they're just have gotten even closer.
Right.
They don't really, haven't exactly made that leap in their minds.
Yeah. I mean, if we don't know, like if no one knows that Chenford is the thing, I hope that we get to see it though, because we were robbed of tomorrow finding out about Chenford. Like, so I don't know. We don't totally know if they know, but like it kind of seems like it. I don't know. I figured we wouldn't see everyone finding out, but at least some of them. Like maybe not Angela because she's close with Tim, but like maybe Nyla, maybe I don't know, Aaron or Celina kind of finding out about them. But I mean, everyone has to know. Like he up and left his position as sergeant. Like, how does no one question that?
Yeah.
But also, like, we didn't really see, like, in the roll call room or anything, like, oh yeah, Tim's now moved to court liaison, a sergeant or whatever. So it's kind of like, was that just again in the blank space and we just don't see that? Like,
I don't know. Or
we're
maybe
just supposed to assume.
yeah, I don't know, or if Gray just kind of maybe just didn't really think to say anything because maybe he wondered if that would eventually change too. Like Tim
Yeah.
wouldn't really stay in that position for very long.
Yeah.
I don't know. But yeah, so we do get to see Lucy go to Smitty and ask for help, which was the sneak peek that we saw. And just, oh my gosh, just the fact that Smitty was actually considering going out for this 400 grand job. And Lucy was like, yeah, no, I'm sure you could do it, but it's a lot of work. And he's like, oh, no, thank you, I'll pass. And I was like, that sounds more like it, to be honest. And obviously, like we said earlier, Lucy wants to convince Smitty to convince Lauren Fuji to retire.
Mhm.
And he was like, well, I don't know. She's pretty mad at me. And Lucy was like, okay, well, you can undo what you did and get her this job that pays 400 grand. So like, if you talk to her, then like, I'll do you this favor and everything will work out just fine. And she's like, but nothing weird. And he's like, yeah, no, okay. Like,
Never trust Smitty when that's his answer.
Yeah. And so later we see Tim's at the station. Lucy, he and Lucy kind of like meet up at the same time. And he, tells her, oh, I hear Lauren Fuji is retiring. And Lucy kind of feigns surprise, like letting Tim tell her all the moves that'll happen with Fuji out of the way. And, he's like, well, then that means that Watson can move device and Brims and Motors and Hicks can take his place. And then that means there's an opening in Metro, which I get it, but that's like different from what they said earlier when they were murder boarding it.
Yeah.
So like I didn't know like where that came from. I mean, I guess because like if Hicks did take Tim's court sergeant spot, then like he would have it's because Tim had said earlier it's low stress. It's not, like during the day. So, you get to, be at home with your kids in the evening and stuff. But I don't know. It was just slightly different than what they had originally figured out in the board.
Yeah.
So maybe just things moved around a little bit more. But that's not important. The more important thing is that Chenford's so cute and they're just so happy.
His smile as she like walked away. Oh my gosh. I was like, this is season 5 Tim is like, amazing.
Even his smile was like, I'm excited. Like he's genuinely like happy.
Yes.
And just, oh my gosh, I'm just so happy that he's happy. And it was a cute moment. And they were gonna go celebrate, but Lucy's like, yeah, I have to go help a friend with something, but we can celebrate tomorrow. So Ken and Chenford is celebrating tomorrow. That's the thing. But then the friend that Lucy's helping is Smitty, and the something is cleaning out his trailer in a full hazmat suit because you really wouldn't expect anything less when it comes to Smitty, that trailer, and God knows what is in it. So can't blame Lucy.
That's the second smell that she's smelling for the day. Like, that's got a ton of smells.
Yeah.
All questionable.
Not a fun time.
Yeah.
But
also, like, she's such a trooper. Like, she will literally do anything for Tim, even if it means cleaning out his trailer.
Yep. Yeah. So that kind of wraps it up for the rookie episodes. It was good. Just lots of pieces that had to fit together. Yeah, definitely. I don't know. Like, to me, this episode almost like, I don't know, it wasn't bad, but it kind of like fell flat for me. Oh, really?
Yeah, and I think it was just there was too much going on. Like I loved that we got to meet or know more about Celina. I loved the Chenford stuff, obviously. I loved that group scene, but I think it was like the case that like fell flat.
Mm.
I don't know. I guess to me because like I'm used to watching other shows where it's like, okay, in January, like they're playing it up where it's winter. And I'm like, there's not a heat wave going on in California right now. Like that's not realistic to me. I don't know. I think it was that and just like it was just a lot of different storylines, like with the Angela stuff, the Lucy and the smell stuff, and then the, heat wave. I was just like, there's a lot going on. But I loved like the Celina stuff, and the different partnerships. But yeah, I don't know. I was just kind of like, okay, this isn't like an episode that I'll go back and watch on repeat, I feel like.
Yeah. I mean, I thought it was good. I don't know. I just thought it was different. I mean, yeah, sure. It's not like,
It's not like 211 or 509 and 508.
yeah, it's not in the top 5, but I didn't I thought it was funny. Honestly, like Nolan was one of the funnier characters in this episode for me.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that was a refreshing change,
Yeah.
in my opinion. But yeah, I mean, yeah. But there were quite a few listener thoughts on this episode as well.
Yes.
So we will jump into those.
Yeah. So
First.
Abby had said, I think this episode had a little too much to work with, so it felt choppy in some places, but they hit some really sweet found family moments and nice emotional beats. So honestly, I can't complain. 7.5 out of 10. Yeah, there were definitely a lot of found family moments, like like you had said, the hospital scene where they go and check on Celina. I mean, even like the scene where Tim, goes to Celina's house or Celina's mom's house and like checks on her. Definitely some found family. And they kept like reminding Celina of that. Like you've got sisters and brothers now, like on the in the LAPD, like, you've got a second family to kind of rely on. So it was good.
Mhm. Yeah. LOB said, I love an episode when you get most of the cast together. I really liked that. I also felt they are finally giving Celina more depth, which I've wanted to see for a while. Lucy putting in the effort for Tim was epic, and it really showcases how far they've come together. 4 out of 5 stars for the episode.
Yes.
Yep. Definitely agree.
Mm-hmm. Chrissy said, this episode felt a bit like a filler. Though the Chenford moments were super sweet, I think the writers missed some opportunities that would have served the storyline well. Not sure where we're heading with Nolan's storyline, but right now everyone around him seems more interesting, including Bailey. I'd much rather see her standalone as a standalone character.
Hmm.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like his partnership with Celina, though, is kind of making him interesting because it's like everything that she says, it's like, oh, how is he going to react to that? What is he going to say to that?
Yeah.
And he's kind of having to learn like how to deal with someone different, like who kind of thinks with a different mindset. So yeah, but that's interesting, like
Yeah.
that it's feeling like he's becoming a little less interesting.
Yeah. I
Okay.
have a coworker who would like say the opposite because she's not the hugest fan of Bailey's character
Yeah.
on the show. So I just thought that was kind of, but I mean, with all of Bailey's jobs, though, you could probably have a spin-off
Oh,
with
definitely.
her just wearing all the hats that she does,
Definitely. It'll be interesting to see next week's episode though, because it
Mm-hmm.
seems like she's gonna be like kind of the main character. That's at least how the
Yeah.
promo's making it. Who knows?
Yeah.
But it'll be interesting to see how that goes.
Yeah. Well, that and it's like she's the one that's kind of not a victim, but just caught in a situation again. Whereas, she's not coming in to save the day. She's the one that might need saving.
Yeah.
So yeah, that'll be interesting for sure. Janine had said, I really was hoping Tim showed up at Smitty's RV. I think it would have been a cute scene, seeing what lengths Lucy would go to make Tim happy.
Yes.
That would have been so just honestly, I could see him just like show up, literally like take Lucy's hand, drag her away, and be like, "You are not doing this. I don't care what it costs, like you're not doing it."
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, that definitely would have been made it even more of a unique scene
Yeah,
than it already was.
for sure.
And Janine had also said the kids were so cute and she loved Celina and Gray's teamwork.
Yes. Yeah, it was interesting to see Gray kind of pair up with another rookie.
Mhm.
I mean, I feel like we had seen that with him and Aaron
Yeah.
maybe once or twice, but I mean, I feel like at some point he has to team up with them for like the day or whatever because he's the watch commander.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Valerie said, haven't watched yet, just wanted to say hi. Hi, Valerie.
Hi. I thought that was fun.
Yeah.
Jen said, I really liked the episode. Yes, I would have liked more Tim and Lucy moments, but I love it when we get to see the whole cast. And love that we got to see more of Celina. I just hope next week Bailey doesn't get shot at. Yeah. Considering there's someone targeting firefighters in next week's episode. Yeah, I hope Bailey makes it out unscathed.
But like when we get to see the whole cast, so like can we please have more of that? Because I'm still not over the JCPenney catalog thing being cut.
No.
And I feel like we didn't get as much with the whole murder boarding job thing as we could have. Like we did get a lot, but like I kind of wish that we got more.
Mhm.
Let's just make a whole episode on that, please.
Yeah.
So Joanna said the pacing of this episode was not great, but I loved Celina's development. The Chenford scenes we did get were so cute. Smitty back on the show was nice to see, although I hope he makes more Feds appearances too. And I liked the dynamic switch ups. Yes, Smitty on Feds has been like one of the best things about the first season. I think it just has to do with like the scheduling too. Like he's probably like one of the only ones that they can get on Feds so much.
Mhm.
But yeah, I liked seeing Smitty back on the rookie,
Mhm.
and just causing chaos like he always does. I was almost hoping that the mention of the makeup would be brought up this week.
Oh my God.
Like I thought that was going to be the favor that he needed Lucy to take care of.
Oh man.
And I was like, oh, I'm just waiting for that. But I
Too
mean, the
funny.
trailer and the cleaning was funny too. So,
Yeah. Mhm.
but yeah. Yeah, I did like the switch ups too. I thought they were good.
Yeah. Okay, and this is the comment that was the season 1 vibes. Kim had said was great seeing the gang all together, some solid season 1 vibes. That first season of The Rookie built such great bonds and connections. You could feel some of those again last night. Loved how Lucy just walked in at Nolan's. Hilarious. So true. So funny how
Yes.
everyone just gathered at Balin's house. Yes.
I also feel like that was a testament to how comfortable Lucy is with Nolan.
Mhm.
Like to where she just walked in, where it's like Lopez and Nyla. I mean, granted, they've got babies with them and like a husband too, but
Yeah.
like they knocked on the door, whereas Lucy just kind of walked in.
Mhm.
Yeah, it was good. Sonia had said, loved the off-duty scenes. The gang at Nolan's was definitely a highlight of the episode for me. Lucy scheming to get Tim his position and then letting him be all excited without claiming credit was so good. Celina, I just loved more with each episode as always, and loved seeing her and Tim. However, while I understand Nolan's nervousness on Gray testing his first rookie to see how they're both handling their positions, his behavior was off-putting to me. I could see that.
Yeah. Yeah.
He did kind of come across as like not as confident. And it's like, John, like
Yeah.
you know, but I think also like he just knows how Gray is with his like digs and
Mhm.
all of that I could see why he was a little like off put with that.
Yeah, that makes sense. Kristen had said, I loved the last scene with Tim and Lucy at the station. She was so proud of him and he deserves to be happy. The final look on his face as she walked away almost looked like he was going to shed happy tears. Oh,
I never thought about that, but yes.
I didn't either. Yeah, but he was, I mean, just pure happiness.
Yeah. Not a look that we get on Tim Bradford very often.
Nope.
More of that, please.
Mhm.
I mean, we need to keep up his tough exterior, but yeah, more of that, please. Karen had said, I love the show. Having the gang together was great. The little Tim Lucy moments were sweet. All in all, a great episode. Maybe next time we'll get a morning after scene with Tim and Lucy. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. Like, I know that people were talking about it or like hoping for it this episode, but I don't know. I didn't really think just because it's in the 7:00 Central time zone. I was like, we're not getting maybe like them making coffee in her apartment together, but
oh, it'd be cute.
Yeah.
Saffron said slow, definitely a filler episode used to push forward some storylines, but I enjoyed it.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely feel like this was like maybe to grow Celina a little bit more.
Yeah.
Alora had said, haven't seen Feds yet, but I really enjoyed The Rookie. Great Celina content. I hope we keep her. Some cute Chenford moments. Could they be any more in love? And I can't stop singing the Daddy Cop song. Fabulous. Yeah, the Daddy Cop song was good. I just like how they used that in the cold open. And it was like targeted towards Nolan.
Yeah. Funny.
And when we all thought it was going to be about Tim or something, like, yeah, it was good.
Yeah. Well, and you know what I just realized though is that like, even though it wasn't like used in the same way, just the use of the word like daddy on like The Rookie, and then it was used in Feds too. It was just funny. So lots of that going on. And last but not least, Mindy had said, it was a good episode. I felt that Celina really became part of the crew. It was so nice getting to see her interact with characters other than Nolan and Bailey. I would have loved to see more of the chaos of everyone taking over Nolan's house, like a whole episode of that. Please.
Yes. Could you imagine like baby Jack just like running around and no one's like, wait, don't touch that, like because he hasn't had a baby around in so long.
Oh man.
And Bailey like loving on him or whatever. Oh my God, that would have been hilarious. I need the behind this, like I need more behind the scenes or like deleted clips of that. Yeah. Because it would have been funny.
Yeah, definitely.
Is that about it for The Rookie? Cool. We'll move on to The Rookie Feds now. I apparently can't talk today either, so this is going to be fun because The Rookie Feds, there was a lot. This was my favorite episode of the night. Like I don't know, I like The Rookie kind of fell flat for me, but The Rookie Feds like picked it up. I don't know if it was like the side storylines, but I mean even the case was kind of interesting too.
Yeah, I couldn't stop thinking about the side storylines. So
same.
Yeah,
the side storylines were the best part for me. So yeah. So we'll start off with the undercover like op and case just because that's the biggest part. So we start the cold open with a man is walking to his car and he gets in, like there's someone waiting in the back seat. It turns out that this guy's like choked and like his neck is slit and he ends up dying. And then we get the title card. So we see everyone kind of waiting like it's not the lobby of the bureau, but it's kind of like the bullpen. And Garza comes out, greets the team who's all there. No one knows why they're there. And, you know, it was just like a last minute assignment or whatever. And so Garza briefs them that they're needed for an undercover op at a hotel bar. And Simone's like, so what are our cover stories? And Garza's like, no, we're just stagehands tonight. Like there are none. And so Carter and Laura just like give each other a look. Like they know what this entails. And Simone's like, well, what's a stagehand? And so they say that in order to control the environment on certain ops, they sometimes fill the target location with agents. So they'll all be posing as hotel guests, servers, bartenders. the whole thing. And so they're sitting in the briefing room, like, you know, we meet Supervisory Special Agent Lewis Cronin, who has been in other things. And I was like, I feel like I know him from somewhere.
I know. I said that exact same thing, but it still hasn't come to me yet. So
I feel like he was in like some Christmas movie, like Christmas with the Cranks, but it wasn't him. It was someone who looked like him. I don't know. I'll have to look him up. But he's from the San Diego field office, and you know, he's like in charge because it's his op, so he knows what's going on. Like, and he's like, you know, even though we're in your house, like it's mine. And so his cyber crimes unit has been monitoring the dark web chatter. And basically an unsub with top secret clearance is like offered up stolen military technology to the highest bidder. And so this case is like all over because we think it's going one way and then like it turns another way. So he pulls up messages back and forth, like, and you know, says that it's taken months for this unsub to agree to sell the tech to someone that they believe is a Russian operative, but like it's actually Special Agent Abrams. So we know that like the case is working, like, or the team is like working on the case internally. So the technology is designed for military satellites that like can track submarines up to 200 meters below the ocean. And the team doesn't know a whole lot, but like the unsub has reached out and like arranged a deal giving the satellite tech, like in order to give the satellite tech, he wants $2 million in exchange. So we cut over to the hotel bar. Garza's a waiter because he's like, you know, it gives me more free reign of the restaurant or of the place. And he's like able to move around a lot. And Carter and Simone come in and they're like on a quote unquote date holding hands, which is just hilarious. Like given Carter's storyline later on in the episode. So Garza, you know, tells them that their unsub might already be there. So no shop talk and no calling him boss. Because Simone's like, wow, like you got a waiter position, and she calls him boss and everything. And I just love that they used shop talk in there.
I know. I was like, but then I was like, no shop talk, rude. Like that's not okay. I think I tweeted that, but I was just like, oh my gosh, like shop talk. That's us.
Yeah, I know. Oh my gosh, that's happened. Well, okay, they've used that in tweets a few times.
Yeah, well, they said it on Feds. Well, they said talk shop, so not the exact same thing, but
yeah,
a variation. Then I know they used it, the rookie account used it as a caption.
Yeah.
On the thing. Oh, but
like
also,
still, I'll take it. I'll take whatever I can get.
No, for sure. And I don't know. I mean, I was looking up Patrick Gallagher, who was the Agent Cronin. I don't know if it's like anything. I mean, he was on Glee for 10 episodes, I guess. As I'm not familiar with Glee, but someone named Ken Tanaka.
Yeah. He was like a coach or teacher or something that was kind of abrasive.
Gotcha. Yeah. I literally don't know what's wrong with me because he was literally on Big Sky like last year. Like since the freaking show started, he was like the sheriff that Jensen Ackles' character like replaced. Oh my
gosh.
That's
why he looks familiar then to you. You just couldn't place him. Yeah, he's not in the season.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. So, but oh my gosh, it's bugging me for like ever and ever. But anyway, yeah. So trivia solved. Anyway, continue. Sorry.
So, yeah. So then like Garza's like, oh, so the unsub might be here. So just like be aware. So we see Special Agent Abrams walk in. The off is a go. Like, you know, everyone has to be on high alert now. So Garza walks up to Simone and Carter's table with Laura standing there and like checks his phone. He sees that there's a notification from LA Clear and that there was a murder in the parking garage, who we find out is Spencer Gordon. And the parking garage is at Aerospace Relativity. And it turns out that that's one of the firms with access to the satellite tech. So there's no suspects or surveillance. Like there was just no cameras there. So the victim has the correct security clearance, though. So like that can't be a coincidence. And LA Clear didn't find the tech on him. So agents are on the way to the scene. And you know, the undercover op is still going on though, just because they want to make sure that they've got like everything correct. And so Garza checks in. He acts like he's checking in on Brendon and Antoinette, and like Brendon then asks if everything is okay, and Garza's like kind of putting out in front, saying that it is. And so they see who they think is their unsub walk in, and it, they're kind of like, okay, be like, have your comp eyes on. And so it turns out that that's a false alarm, and the team has to stand down. And so like the night goes on, and Garza like kind of calls over to Cronin or whatever, and he's like, it's 7 minutes past the scheduled meet time, like what's going on? And Cronin's team just finished searching Spencer Gordon's apartment and a personal computer, and like the dark web account that they've been communicating with actually belongs to him. So Garza's like, it looks so someone got to him first, and like your seller is dead, like the tech is out in the open, the op is killed. And so just as Garza goes over to Laura, Carter, and Simone, telling them like that they're wrapping things up, Simone looks around, kind of like evaluating the room, and she asks Garza if he's sure about that. And, so they see a suspicious looking guy like walk in with the briefcase that was required, like the exact briefcase. And so they're wondering if this is the murder victim's partner or someone else. And so this guy with the briefcase walks in, goes over to meet Abrams, and he opens the briefcase. We find out that it's empty. And so Cronin like tells his team to take this guy, and Garza's like, no, like if they do, we'll have nothing. And so Garza's like, let's just follow him. Let's see where he leads. Let's play this out a little bit longer. And so Cronin's like, Matt, it's not your call, like, and we're gonna take this guy. And so when the suspected, like when the unsub, or who they think is the unsub at least, sees like, agents kind of walking over to the table, he bolts. But as he's running out of the restaurant, Simone like puts her foot down and trips him, allowing Carter to arrest him like while he's down. And so, this guy's under arrest now, and he's like, I don't know what's going on. Like I'm a task a lot worker from the app or whatever, and was paid $500 to like come here and wear a pin. And so it turns out that the team has just been made because Garza's face is like looking into this pin. And so like later on in the episode, Garza's with the team, and like he tells them that they're taking over the case from Cronin. Because HQ is pissed that like he pulled the trigger too soon. So Carter's like, well, the courier, the task lot guy's story checks out. And he was used as bait to like suss out if there was law enforcement at the hotel. And so they say that cybercrimes says that there's no way to track the actual unsub on the app. So Laura shares her profile on him. She's like, he's clever, tech savvy. Somehow he figured out that Spencer Gordon was going to steal the satellite R&D and sell it. So with Spencer out of the picture, the unsub can piggyback off of Spencer's deal. And so Carter and Simone are heading over to the scene of Spencer's murder to like see what they can find, while Garza hands over the pin camera to Brendon and tells him to like get it over to the lab to check the specs for the serial number. And everyone's still at the hotel bar. Like, Antoinette's there. She is taking out latex gloves from her purse. And Brendon's like, I do have a lab right here or whatever. And so Brendon like questions her and if she really had the gloves in her purse. And she's like, yeah, like I'm always prepared. What about it? And so she like takes her hoop earring out, uses it to disassemble the cam. And she's like, I've actually seen this type of cam before. And like, there's not a serial number on it. So that's going to make it hard to trace. But it's short range, meaning that the actual unsub was inside of the hotel the entire time. So Brendon's job is to get his hands on the security footage and like find out who was watching them. While Carter and Simone are like at Spencer Gordon's murder scene still. And so it turns out that the cameras at the murder scene were disabled. So like they were there, but just disabled. And the techs found no fingerprints or DNA. So like they really have nothing. And we find out that the ME thinks that it was cheese wire that was used to kill Spencer because it was sharp and had to be like industrial strength. So Simone like runs it through VICAP and like finds out that there were 3 other homicides in the last 2 years that fit that MO. And one was actually like there was 3 homicides and then 1 attempted one. And it turns out that the guy survived. He's currently like in prison serving a 3-year sentence for armed robbery. So Simone and Carter are like, great, we'll go talk to him. It turns out that his name is Frank Patterson, and they think that they tell him that they think the same person who killed Spencer tried to kill him. And so when he sees a picture of the wound, he like grabs his neck and he's like, oh, was the killer arrested? And so they tell him that he can help if he can help them like catch the guy. Then like he could secure a transfer to a facility in state in Florida. And suddenly he's listening because he just wants to like do his time and get out of there. And so Frank says that jewelry theft that he did was like flawless and in and out. And when he got to the car, like someone was already in there waiting for him. And so, he's like, well, if I didn't tell anyone any details of my plans. And he's like, I was careful. I worked alone. And then the snake gets it all. And Carter's like, they're not a snake, like they're a remora. And so Carter like explains more of what a remora is. And he's like, it's called suckerfish. And like they survive by suctioning onto a host animal like a shark or whale and feed off of its scraps for its kills. And so Simone breaks it down and she's like, putting it into layman's terms. And she's like, so the guy lets a criminal do all the work, then kills him and takes all of like the credit for it. And so, Simone and Carter are like kind of figuring that out. Well, Laura goes back to Brendon and she's like, how is it going running through the security footage? And Brendon's just kind of like pouting in a way. He's like, I just wish I didn't answer Garza's call. Like I was having the best night. And Laura's like, I don't want to hear any more complaints from you. And she's like, at least your girlfriend is in the same time zone. And that like catches Brendon's attention. And he's just like, oh, so you and Atlas are trying the long distance thing? And then I don't know. I did not hear this line last night. He's I just can't believe that they got away with saying this, like on the 8 p.m. Central Time, like time slot. I don't know. But he's like, yeah, the phone sex just isn't as good as it is IRL. Like the fact that he was saying IRL, I'm just like, dude, say in real life, but oh my gosh. And he was just like so serious about it too. It was so funny.
Yeah.
So then Laura like immediately regrets bringing it up to Brendon. And just as she tells him no more talking, he sees something in the footage and he's like, yeah, are you sure about that? So like she walks over to see this video footage and they're like looking at the guy's right hand, which has a tattoo, and like, they're trying to make it out. So they both like turn their heads in sync and her cheek is literally milliliters away from his shoulder.
Oh, I missed that. I think I was still reeling with the fact that he literally was just like, oh, the phone sex isn't as good. I'm like, dude, do you know who you're talking to right now?
So like it literally all happened at once and you're live tweeting and I'm like filling out this outline and I just like text you on the side and I'm like, do you see them right now? Like what? And yeah, I like you had caught the line about the phone sex or whatever and I caught the in sync and yeah, we were just trying to process it all in real time, all while still doing what we needed to do.
Yep.
It was too good. So they see a credit card like gets pulled out or whatever, and Laura's like, I'm calling for a warrant. And so Laura and Brendon walk into Garza's office and tell him that the suspect was watching them from the hotel lobby. And surveillance video caught him buying coffee and a dessert with a credit card. And Garza's like, great, we've got a name. But not so fast. The guy used a prepaid credit card. So there's no name attached to it, but like he also used the same credit card to rent a share B&B in Echo Park, which I just love that like they use Clip Talk, they use share B&B, like
yeah.
they changed the names just a little bit to get away with it. So Brenson, Simone, and Carter like go to get the suspect and he's like on the run. and Carter and Simone go to cut him off. The suspect like hops the fence, and Carter, I thought that this was so random and weird, but like Carter like looks over the fence, and instead of like looking over it to like make sure that he's good to hop the fence, it's almost like he like looks over and he was like gonna talk to the guy, but then the guy like gets one and like on him and hits him in the face with his backpack or whatever, knocking Carter down. And so suspect got away, but like he ended up dropping his phone, so they're able to kind of tear that apart. So everyone's back at the bureau. Apparently Cronin like went tattletaling to the AD and said that they lost the guy because Garza didn't call in SWAT for backup, and Garza's like, Cronin just wants the case back for himself, like it's no big deal, don't worry about it. So the suspect like ended up using a fake name to set up the share B&B account, but like, so there's no forensic evidence, just a partial palm print. And they're no closer to a positive ID. And so at this point, like they know more about the victims than they do about this unsub. And all 4 victims are known accomplished thieves for diamond theft, high-end cars, pricey artwork, etc. And Carter's just like, yeah, this guy like preys on his own kind, just like a remora. And Simone's like, stop trying to make that happen. And I feel like you had tweeted this, or someone did, like maybe we retweeted it or something. But I was like, yeah, Mean Girls reference and Fetch.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. They just, I mean, literally, as soon as you said that, I was like, did they just reference Mean Girls? Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Like, whoa.
Wait, wasn't it on Feds a few weeks ago where the person like literally got hit by the bus or by the car? And like,
yeah.
I mean, yeah.
Whoa.
They're just like kind of referencing, paralleling Mean Girls here.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm here for it. Mean Girls was an iconic movie.
Yeah.
So Simone and him like argue about it, and he's like saying that it's a perfect name for their unsub, and she's like, the metaphor doesn't even make sense. And Laura like backs her up, and Laura and Simone were like on the same team this episode. I loved it. Like they were on the same page. So Garza stops arguing because he's just like angry dad figure in this.
Garza
like
doesn't have time for this. He's like, just he's probably just thinking like, everybody shut up and listen to me. Like
pretty much
he has stuff to do.
So he stops arguing, and he's like, hopefully we'll find out the name once Cybercrime does their magic on his burner cell, but like it'll take a while, so go home. And Simone, like the next day, Simone asks if they got anything on the burner cell, and the suspect made 3 calls on it. The first 2 were to the Russian consulate and the China consulate in LA, which they're like, well, if he wanted to get in touch with someone like really high up, he wouldn't have used the LA consulates. And so the third call was to Rebecca Laramie. And so they're like, okay, who is she? And so Laura's like, the Remoras used to piggybacking on others' plans, like not creating their own. And, so it makes sense that he would be using someone else. And as soon as Laura says Remora, we see Carter just kind of smile and smirk, and he's just like so proud. And I just know that Simone was like on the side, just like rolling her eyes, like seriously.
He's literally like as obsessed with that as he is like the Bigfoot thing.
Yes.
It's like, dude, just chill.
That's literally what I thought on my second watch. I was like, this is reminiscent of his obsession with Bigfoot.
Well, I think he just likes being right, and then he likes feeling validated that he's right.
Yeah. I also feel like he hyperfixates on things.
Oh,
like
definitely.
He definitely does.
Are you kidding?
Yeah.
Like even when he was trying to build his son's model car, he like that's literally all he was focused on. Even when they were chasing down, their suspect or whatever. It was nuts.
Carter is becoming one of my favorites, solely just because he is just as chaotic as literally everyone else.
So great.
So we meet Rebecca Laramie, who is with Sonic Speed Industries, and they're Aerospace Relativity's largest competitor. And so the suspect is trying to sell to their rival, and the call lasted over 7 minutes. So they're like, well, we got to talk to her. And Rebecca's like being questioned kind of, or talking to Garza and Laura, and she's like, I just can't believe this guy was for real. Like she thought it was Todd in accounting and just pranking her. And Laura doesn't believe that she thought it was a prank. She was like, well, then why would you have been on the phone with him for 7 minutes? Like, make it make sense here. And so Garza gets frustrated and he's like, did the caller try to sell you top secret satellite information from aerospace relativity? And she's like, if I knew that it was real, I wouldn't have taken him up on it. And so she's like, it would have gotten me the biggest promotion. And Garza's like, and it would have gotten you a prison sentence too. And so she's like, am I in trouble? Once she hears that it's espionage. And so they're like, well, we need to know everything that you said to her. And she just says it like it's no big deal. And she's like, yeah, you can listen to the call yourself because the company records all of our calls. And so it turns out that like the suspect requested to meet her in San Pedro. And she didn't agree to the meeting, obviously. And so Simone has a theory, and she's like, only locals call this place Angel Gate. And she's thinking that maybe he grew up there. And so Laura's like, there is a possibility that the unsub has a criminal record. Like, he wouldn't have started all of this out of the blue. Simone like starts inputting facts that they know about him, and it pulls up with 5 possible suspects, and Carter's like taking a look at them since he had the longest like amount of FaceTime or whatever with the suspect. So Carter like swipes through these pictures, and he sees one that kind of like, he's like, yeah, this is the guy. So they pull up his information. His name is Trevor Basque. Like, he fits the profile. And so the team has a hit on facial rec for Trevor, and they're like, we gotta move now. So we see Trevor like meeting with Peter, and it's a last minute thing. They're like in this, I don't know, like a basement or whatever. And so Trevor's like, yeah, I gotta get out of the country. Like, I don't really want to do it with my pockets empty or whatever. And Peter just asks him straight up. He's like, were you the one that killed the engineer, Spencer? And we cut to the feds like moving to the location. So we don't hear any more from Peter or Trevor. And, the feds are clearing the scene. They're like, we don't find anyone. But then Simone finds Trevor, who's dead. And it looks like he like fell off of, I don't know, like not a cliff, but like I don't know, just like a kind
like
of
not a land. It's not even a landing. No, a landing is where you literally land. Like
the word is escaping me right now.
A ledge.
A ledge, yeah, like a upper level. So the team is analyzing Trevor's death, and they're like, yeah, he was double crossed. And Simone's like, don't say the remora got remora'd. And Carter's like, I didn't say it, you did. Like, but I mean, it's true. And Brendon just points out that it's a strange way to kill someone, like gunshot and strangulation. And so we find out that the shot was meant to immobilize him. So, and the unsub wanted to take his time. And so Simone's like, yeah, it was more about the satellite tech than she thinks that it was more than the satellite tech. Like, it was a personal kill and just like a personal thing. And so Trevor and the new unsub have had a history. And so they have to tear like his history apart and find who had the most hate for Trevor. So Garza's like back at the bureau, and he's got a hit on this guy's known associates. And Peter McCord is the one that he was meeting, who turns out that he was his cellmate while Trevor was in prison, and he's a fence and a known trafficker for high-end items for like international clientele. And so then like Garza looks at Peter's known associates, who is Jared Mackey, and he stole a shipment of metal too. So McCord was Mackey's fence. So like after sharing a cell and knowing him, it appears that Trevor like got an idea to follow like McCord's associates around until they perform their jobs and then like kill them and take the stolen goods like for himself. So Trevor like called McCord because he got cocky, figured that McCord wasn't onto his scheme, and Trevor needed a big payday. So, but like, it's almost, I mean, McCord did double cross Trevor, right? Because he got wise, he realized that he could get revenge and get a big payday. And so it was just like, it was kind of like a bait and switch, just double cross. And so Simone and Carter have eyes on Peter, and they're preparing to get him and like calling for backup. And this guy's like on the phone. He's like, yeah, I'm ready to move or whatever. And he hears sirens and like immediately runs out, meeting Carter, and then like runs back in. And so Carter thinks that Simone will run into him, but like, no, the guy's hiding in the shop and starts shooting at Carter. And so Carter like goes to take Peter down, but Peter ends up getting Carter down and like pops some of his stitches. And it's a whole fight scene. And then Simone like comes in and whacks him in the head with a guitar, like the badass that she is. So then, you know, at the end of the episode, Garth is like, yeah, the DoD is pleased to know that their satellite tech is safe and that they're planning on implementing new security protocols. And so, you know, Garth is like just kind of going on, and Brendon like goes to walk out, and Garth is like, where are you going? And Brendon's got a date. Like he's got his second date with Antoinette. Well, second technically, but first really, because they didn't have that much of a first date.
Yeah.
So
Kind of like Jennifer, except I mean, it's like
not,
different though. Yeah, it's
yeah.
like different.
Like it's like same, but different, you know? Yeah. So then Brendon's like, do you mind? Like, you know, can I go? And Laura just kind of looks over at Matt, at Garza, and it's just like, come on, Matt, like, you know, let him go.
Yeah, she's like his number one supporter. I'm like, I love this.
know.
Like,
And
this
I
is
was
what I
like,
mean. Like, I just like, even if they, you know, don't end up being romantic, their platonic
yeah.
friendship's great.
I loved how how it was her that was
Yeah.
like, come on, like, let him go. I mean, I don't know, I kind of figured that would be Simone, but I loved that it was Laura.
Yeah.
And so, you know, that's kind of that. And Garza's like, is Carter back in the hospital, like getting restitched? And so we'll kind of go from there. But like, yeah, that was it for the case. It was a lot. Like there was 3 different suspects. I feel like that the feds cases are always so convoluted. Like there's always so many different things going on with them.
There's just so many people. I feel like they have to follow so many leads. And then
Yeah.
like they track down one person. Oh, but then they know this person who knows this
Yeah.
thing and da 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 da. Like they're just very intricate.
Once again, I feel like feds needs to be first in the lineup, because I don't know, like this episode was good and piqued my interest, but I think it was more so for like the second and third storylines. Like it wasn't for the case. But I feel like that's how a lot of like first responder, like police shows kind of are. Is like you want to know more about the side storylines than you do about like the main case.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So next we have Brendon and Antoinette's date, which like I separated from the case stuff just because, I mean, come on, it's Brendon Akers and Antoinette. I mean, they're just adorable. So
yeah.
So Brendon and Antoinette are like ready to go on their date, you know, all excited, and Brendon was called into work. And so Antoinette just alludes to them like holding off on the date. And Brendon's like, no, like it's fine, we can still go. And he's just gonna talk to Garza to see like how long he needs to be there, which like, oh, Brendon, the minute you said that, it was like, dude, it's not gonna happen. And so Antoinette's fine with it, but like only because she's been dying to wear this dress out. And like she looked good. She did. So Simone like walks out of the elevator. She sees the pair like just kind of standing around there. And she compliments their outfits and, you know, asks if they called in the lab techs too. And Brendon starts to explain. And then Simone's like, oh yeah, like you guys were going on your first date. And Antoinette just looks at Brendon and she's like, you told her? And Brendon, the BFF puppy dog that he is, he's just like, yeah, it's Simone. I tell her everything. And he just kind of like flashes her his smile and everything. And oh my gosh, it was so good. So like as Garth is briefing everyone on the case, like he looks over to Antoinette and he's like, what are you doing here? Garza just like did not have time for anything else tonight or anything else in this episode. So then like he remembers and he cuts her off that it's like her and Brendon's first date. And it turns out that Brendon told literally everyone in his unit that which I mean, honestly, it doesn't surprise me. I feel like Brendon is definitely the one that will like get excited and just like blab it all to you know, his teammates. So So Simone has Brendon's back and she asks if Garza, if like, he thinks that they'll be able to make their reservation after the case. And Garza's like, probably not. But he does tell Antoinette that like she can join them, like she's part of the FBI and it's a low risk op. And like, he's like, so I can make it happen if that's okay with you. And so Antoinette's like, sure, whatever. And I mean, we probably could have had like Brendon and Laura sitting at the hotel bar or table together, but like it's fine. Like, not against Brendon and Antoinette. So yeah, so Antoinette's like, yeah, that's fine, like I'll join or whatever. And she's like, can I have a gun though? And Garza's like, he said in a very gray-like response. He was like, no. And he like doubles down on it.
Yeah.
I just thought that was very Wade Gray of him.
Yep.
Yeah.
So true.
And he doesn't fail to mention that the Bureau is picking up the tab and he's just like, just enjoy it. Which
Yeah, I was
like,
that's great for a first date. Like, damn,
right?
okay.
At like a fancy hotel bar. I mean, yeah, you're undercover and having to work, but like, sure. So Brendon and Antoinette like walk into the hotel bar later and she's excited. She's like, this is my first undercover operation. And she even feels that like she's in a John Le Carre novel. Probably just butchered that. And he's like, I love seeing like your sexy spy side. And after Garza like leaves from quote unquote checking on them, Antoinette's just like, so we're just supposed to sit here and make small talk. And Brendon's like, yeah, but we can make it fun because he's sunshine. And that's why, like, he just tries to make everything fun and kind of take her mind off of it. And so he has an idea and he brings up creating elaborate backstories to make the time pass because it's something that he used to do when he was a kid, like acting as an extra on things. So they come up with backstories for each other and they're in French, like they're kind of playing French characters or whatever. And she's the owner of a rival hotel who's scouting the competition. And he's Gustave, the fiery chef de cuisine that she's been trying to poach. And so they're kind of talking in French, but like it's not completely in French or whatever. And so she tells him that like she wants him in her hotel's restaurant, of course. And they're just like being flirty and cute. It was cute to see them talk in French because she's French and Kevin's Canadian. So yeah.
Yeah. I know. I told my friend Kristen, I was like, you really need to like catch up just so you can tell me if the translations on screen are correct.
Yeah.
Because like I don't know French. I know zero French at all. So if it had not been for those translations, I would have been so lost.
Yeah. I was gonna say I was reading the translations and subtitles because yeah. So after Garza gives Brendon the task of like going through the security footage or whatever, Antoinette's just like, yeah, that was the oddest first date ever. And so he apologizes and like looks over to Laura, who's just like standing there awkwardly and tells him to meet her in the security office. And she's just like, okay, so meet me in the security office. Bye. Like I'm getting out of here. And Brendon and Antoinette are flirting a little bit more after Laura leaves and like they continue their fantasy or whatever. And she's like, yeah, my character was supposed to like seduce your character into like a torrid affair in the kitchen. And so like they kind of leave it there or whatever. And so later in the episode, Brendon like stops by the lab and Antoinette's busy looking at something. And she doesn't really like greet him in the way that like he thought she would or like he was expecting. And he's just like, she's like, well, you're interrupting my workflow. And he's like, yeah, for a good reason though. Like I would like to reset our first date. And he's like, I'm thinking tonight we could do like Spanish food followed by a romantic starlight stroll at the observatory and like do some dancing at the Warwick. And she's like, that's ambitious and impressive. And she's like, is it a gamble though? Like with an active case in your unpredictable hours? And he's like, maybe, but I'm betting on us. And she's in and like, he's just like flashing his file. Like, yeah, it's adorable with them. And so at the end of the episode, Antoinette's like waiting for Brendon and, she's like, I thought you were going to choose your job over me again. And he's just like, he's trying to say the plans, but then she gets a call and she has a rush job on her plate now. And their date is going to have to wait. So it just keeps getting like rescheduled. And he hugs her goodbye. And like we see her in the lab, like after or whatever. And she's like sad that she couldn't go on the date. And before she knows it, he walks in speaking French and they're like continuing their fantasy. And he's like, I'll order food. Like this will be a makeup date. And that's kind of where we leave off with them. They reminded me of Balin and that they could not have a date.
Yeah.
Like even Balin in 513 could not have a normal quiet night, like a normal quiet date.
Yeah. Well, and it kind of reminded me a little bit of Jennifer just because of like the, oh, were you going to choose your job over me? That kind of thing. And I was like,
yes.
Okay. Like I get it, but also
yeah.
No.
Yeah. Brendon and Antoinette, like I love Brenson. I do. I ship them. But like Brendon and Antoinette are growing on me for sure.
They're cute. I like them a lot. I just, they work.
I don't know. I'm just kind of hoping that like they have one good date to where it's not like in a few episodes or whatever that they break them up and they're like, oh, well, we just couldn't have one date. Like this just was never going to work.
Well, because then I feel like if like they did break up, that would be so awkward for them because Brendon was already so awkward and he thought like Antoinette had read the excerpt about his ex's tell-all.
Yeah. Or like Antoinette and Carter were dating or whatever. Yeah.
So I don't know. We'll see. They have a whole season now, a full season for Fed. So I don't know.
So they're on episode 13. So they've got like 7 episodes left.
Mm-hmm.
Which is so crazy. Like, I can't believe that we're like more than halfway through the season.
I know.
I feel like it just started. I don't want it to end.
Me either.
And we're on such a good like roll with episodes that I'm like, surely they cannot keep up until May. But I don't know. Let's see. So 14.
I was gonna say they have
no, there's gonna be a break somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's gonna be a break because if they continue every week until now, until episode 22, like they end in April and they usually end in May. So there's gonna be a break somewhere in there. Who knows for how long? But like that'll be fine. That'll be fine. But I mean, like they're pretty ahead on filming. So if there is a break, it wouldn't be like they're doing it to like catch up on episodes. So yeah. But that's about it for Brendon and Antoinette. I mean, I just loved that like Laura was still involved in it.
Yeah. She's kind of just like a little bit of a third wheel, but then also at the same time though, you have Brendon who is literally like the bromance with Mark is so strong that like he's their third wheel, so it kind of works.
I literally love that they're each other's third wheels.
It's hilarious to me.
And like Laura kind of makes it like awkward, but I think that's just her personality. Whereas Brendon just like immerses himself into it. Yeah. It's just,
he's
it's
like
so
a little
good.
bit clingy. She's a little bit awkward, and they're just they just crack me up.
Yeah. I could watch a whole spinoff of Brendon and Laura.
Especially if they had more of the interview ones, because like I kid you not, I'm still thinking about Laura's like freak out from last week's episode. It was so funny. I just like I can't. It's
we were truly robbed of a Brendon and Laura true crime interview. Like just once. That's all we needed. Yeah. So next we have Carter and his dating life, which like this I think was one of the best storylines.
Yeah, this might have been my favorite.
Literally same. I don't know how James says these lines. I know that you had like texted me that or whatever, tweeted that.
Yeah, but I still don't know. This is why I could never be an actor, because like I was like laughing like for a solid 60 seconds just at the one line from the sneak peek even. So it wasn't even like it was a surprise, but it was just still so funny.
It was so good. So he's like sitting at his desk looking at his phone, and Laura like walks by asking him what's up. And he just mentions that he set up a profile on Clipmates, which I like that it's Clipmates. Like, is it an offshoot of Clip Talk? And so Laura's kind of like shocked that he's finally dipping his toes into the dating pool. And Carter's kind of like down on himself. He's like, it's been a week and I haven't really gotten a message back. And Laura's like, statistically, that's impossible. And the apps have bots designed to like bombard newcomers with attention so they feel welcomed. And she like goes into this whole thing about like the algorithm and the app's programming. And like, I don't know. I'm like, Laura, you've definitely been on these dating apps before. So Laura like takes Carter's phone and, he's like, she asks like what he's doing wrong or whatever. And we see his profile picture. I'm sorry, but I could not help but laugh when I saw it. I was like, that is such a Carter picture. Like, that he took that on a whim, like at his desk or whatever.
Uh-huh.
And I was just like, this is so good.
From
that moment on.
He took it at his desk, but then yet he was so just like, well, I can't put I'm an FBI agent in my bio. And someone's like, why the heck not? So,
yeah.
And he's just kind of a walking contradiction in this episode.
Yeah. Well, and like he couldn't, like in that picture, it was like he didn't like try different angles or whatever. It was like he took one picture, he was like, I'm good. That's it. Like, it was so funny. From the moment that I saw that picture, I was like, oh, this is going to be a funny storyline. Like, I just know it already. So Laura's like, there's so many things wrong with this. And so then Simone like comes in and she's like, I got to get in on this tea or whatever. And she's like, who are you trying to attract? Women who are hot for serial killers? And so Carter and Simone, like later in the episode when they're doing the undercover op, are sitting at the table in the hotel bar. And Simone tells Carter, she's like, this lighting is great. Like, let me get your glow up photo. And she wants his phone. And he doesn't even argue because he just knows that like she won't let up until she gets his phone. And so Simone's like trying to take the picture and she's not getting the one that she wants. And she's like, Carter, less axe murderer, more leading man. And so then Laura like walks up and she's like, I'm thinking the real issue is your bio. Like, you have to play to your strengths and like maybe put your job title in there. And he's like, that's a hard no. Like, I'm not putting that I'm an FBI agent in there. And so Simone's like, why? Women love men with a badge. And she's like, whatever, I'll put it in. And then we like later on or whatever, we see that Carter's phone has been blowing up. And Laura and Simone want to see his profile matches because according to Laura, he wouldn't have any if it wasn't for them, which like she's not wrong. And he's like, fine, but no messaging back. And they start going through them. They're like, nope, this one's not a match. This one's not good. And then they come across one and they're like, oh, she's a possibility. And this was the sneak peek. And Carter like reads the message and it says, arrest me, daddy.
Yeah.
Again, I'm surprised that they got away with this. And Laura's expression is great. And Simone's like all happy, but Carter's like, I'm not doing this. Like, I'm not messaging back. Yeah. And Laura's like, come on, Carter. Like, we all know that you've used cuffs before. And Simone's like, oh, okay, Laura. Like, all right. And I'm just like, we need more of this trio right here. It's like, please. So funny. I need them to like consult Carter on like first date, like do's and don'ts. And I need it because Simone knows like what women think too, right? Because she's dated women too before. But it would just be funny to see Carter like completely get into his mind and like hyperfixate on this and like spiral out of control over it. And Laura and Simone be like, no, okay, so this is what you need to do. And Carter tries it and like it either totally like impresses the woman or it like sets them off. Mm-hmm. But like later, after the first kind of dispute with the suspect, Carter gets stitched up from trying to get the suspect and can't believe that it happened to him. And it kind of reminded me of Lucy last episode when she was claiming that, or no, not last episode, but the episode before, when she was claiming that like she lost the earrings or whatever. And so Simone's like trying to cheer him up by looking at his dating profile. And she's like, you've got 35 new messages. And he's just like, it's superficial though. Like, what does it mean that they liked my profile? And Simone's like, it means that women want to go out with you. Like, what are you doing here? And again, like, he's just getting so into his head about this that it's so interesting because, like, I don't know, I feel like women get more into their heads about like guys texting them and everything like that, that it's just kind of like, it's interesting to see a male get into
Yeah.
his head about that.
Yeah, like from his perspective.
Yeah. So then we see Carter's phone, and like, I don't know, I picked up on this on my second watch, and I noticed that there was a little goof there because his phone says 2:01 a.m., but weren't they interviewing Frank at 2 a.m.? I thought that they were.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because I thought Frank was like, it's 2 a.m., this better be good.
Oh,
And like
yeah,
they
and
were called in late the night before or the night of. So I'm just like, okay, so there's a goof right there. I don't know. I just saw that and I was like, huh, that's interesting.
Mhm.
Yeah. So then he tells her that like he doesn't remember dating being so complicated. And he's like, I actually don't even remember dating at all because I was married for so long. And he's like, I'm an analog dater, like in a digital world. And he's just like, maybe it's just easier if I'm alone. And Simone's like, okay, well, you're just talking crazy now. So then like the nurse comes up and it's Jasmine's daughter who was in a few episodes ago. And her daughter her mom was in county jail. And so like she was the one that offered him the strip club tickets or whatever. And so Fortune like apologizes for the delay. And she's like, we're at capacity tonight with heat related illnesses, accidents from down power, all that, which like, it's nice to see that the heat wave carried over into feds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just because they had the opportunity to do that since they have this
Yeah.
other series.
Yeah. But and I liked how like it wasn't the main focus, like it was just a little like mention of it.
Mhm.
And so Simone like introduces herself and like asks how they know each other because like they're kind of giving each other like looks or just kind of more comfortable with each other. And so she introduces herself or whatever, and Carter's like good to go. She's like, I'm just gonna rewrap it to be safe. And so Simone takes a call, and it's Cuddy on the other line, and like Simone goes back to see Jasmine's daughter Fortune flirting with Carter, and Simone's all happy. She's like, great, we can like delete the dating app now. And Carter's like, what do you mean? And Simone's like, you didn't realize that Fortune's into you? And he's like, what? That's ridiculous. Like, she was just being nice. And at the end of the episode, Carter's like back in the hospital getting restitched. And it turns out that he asked for Fortune specifically. And he's like, do you always work nights? And she kind of tells him his schedule or her schedule or whatever. And he just like asks her out in the most awkward way ever. And he's like, I'm sorry, I just haven't done this in almost 20 years, but like, I'm trying here. And she's like, yeah, you're just like out of practice or whatever. And so she tells him to try again, and she ends up accepting a date with him. So Carter's got a date.
Yeah.
I honestly wonder how that will go though, because like he knows her mom so well, which isn't a bad thing, but like he put her mom in jail. So yeah, that'll be interesting. But I'm sure that we'll get to see it. Hopefully we do. So
plus I just need to know if Simone's gonna ask him about it, and then he's gonna be like, I'm not talking about it. Like I need more of that banter too. So
this is a personal life free zone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Basically.
Yeah, for sure. So that's kind of it on the Carter stuff. We do have a little bit about Simone's daughter. Well, not a little bit. It was like another side storyline. There were just a lot of things going on in this week's episodes of The Rookie and the Rookie Feds. Like a lot.
Yeah.
Which keeps it interesting, but it's also like this is a lot to like pay attention to. So Simone's daughter is back. But we see like Cuddy putting on some music and like Simone's getting ready for like the last minute assignment or whatever. And the door opens and we see Billy. And she's like, it was a spur of the moment trip, but Cuddy doesn't buy it. He's like, yeah, there's something that's wrong. And the door opens again and Taylor walks in. And so Billy introduces him as a friend from Berkeley. And someone's like, yeah, I've heard about Taylor, but I thought she was a girl. And it's all awkward and everything. And Simone like breaks the silence with him, like asking him what he's studying at Cal. And he's just like, oh, I'm not in school. I just live near the campus for the vibes. And Simone's like, okay, that's a little weird, but whatever. And Billy tries to smooth everything over. And she's like, yeah, I had a couple of days off from school. So I thought, like, why not take a road trip in Taylor's van / his house? Because that's where he lives. And so Cuddy's like, so you just sleep in your van? And proceeds to say, well, that's good because you're not sleeping here. Cuddy in this storyline was a whole mood.
That was my favorite line that he said. Is that's good because you're not sleeping here.
Yeah. Cuddy was he was such an adorable, like, grandfather, like, kind of pseudo father figure to Billy. Like, not pseudo father, but almost just like, you need a male role model in your life. Like, I'm here. Yeah. And so Billy just like asks Simone to like help advocate for Taylor and like get him in the house. But Simone's like, it's Grandpa's house, Grandpa's rules. And so before Simone leaves, she tells Cuddy to like be nice. And so Cuddy calls Simone while like, she's in the hospital with Carter. And he's just like, I'm keeping an eye on the door to keep Billy from sneaking out to Taylor's van. And it's 2 a.m. and this man is up and he's just like wide awake. And Simone's like, Billy will make mistakes and learn. And she's got a good head on her shoulders. Like, she has to make mistakes to learn. Like, she'll be fine. And Simone's like, the teenage brain like thrives off of rebellion. And Simone's like, I'm using reverse psychology on her. Basically, if I like Taylor so much, then Billy won't like him. And Cuddy just tells Simone that like, he tries to like kind of play it back. And he's like, yeah, Taylor's a young man who's just trying to find himself, but like he's trying to date Billy, which means he's got to go. That was my favorite line of Cuddy's. I was like, oh my gosh, he's so protective. I love it. So then like the next morning, Simone's getting her coffee. Cuddy comes in like asking about the case. Like, he's like, oh, you've got to go to work or whatever. And he's like, what about the case of the man in the van? And Simone's like, just follow my lead. And Billy walks in and, Simone asks where Taylor is and, he's in his van still or whatever. And Simone like gives Cuddy a look and, he tells Billy that like Taylor should be commended for being so eco-friendly and all of the money that he's saving by living in his van on builds and real responsibilities. And Simone's just like face palming as Cuddy just keeps talking, like putting his foot further in his mouth. And Cuddy's even like, Taylor might be the one. And Billy immediately catches on and she's like, you hate him. Like, I know that's what's going on. And Billy tells them that like Taylor was there for her during the hardest semester for her. And, she's like, he loves and supports me and like makes me so happy. And Simone's happy that Taylor's been there for her, but she's like, he's got nothing going on for his life or whatever. And Billy brings up that like, Simone wouldn't know that because she's barely spoken to him. And so, Billy tells her that like when she was a guidance counselor, she saw the best in everyone. And now that she's fed, she only sees the worst. And so Simone's like, that's not true. And like, she goes to Cuddy for backup. It reminded me of like when siblings fight and they try and like use a parent like to back them up or whatever. And he's like, well, that's not entirely true, but it's also not false either. And I was like, well, yeah, if anyone would know that, that would be Cuddy, like the most, because Cuddy's had instances where, Simone's like thought that the guy that he was working with or had in his like circle was bad or whatever. And so Billy's like, I gotta go because this is upsetting me. And, Billy is like, I won't be here when you get home, to Simone. And so as Simone's like walking into the bureau with Brendon, she asks him like if she's changed and he's all confused and he's like, no, but you're better. And she's like, no, like I think it's made me judgmental and biased and like that's not who I am. And so Brendon just like shares that he feels the same way sometimes. And she tells him that like they can't let the shop change them and that they have to hold each other accountable like they did at Quantico. And then like they do their fun little handshake and it's adorable. I love their dynamic. So then like Simone like gets home and tells Cuddy that like he spent all day trying to call Billy and trying to get her to come home, and she's like, thanks, like, I'm gonna try and call her now. But Billy ends up being at home, and so Simone apologizes and they kind of hash it out, and Simone's like, if Taylor ever treats you bad, like, who to call. And Billy's like, yeah, I'll call Cuddy because you're a little much sometimes. And Billy also just apologizes about her attitude, and they come to a compromise about a couple of things. And so Billy like leaves to go back to school with Taylor, and as she leaves, Simone just asks Cuddy if parenting ever gets easier. And Cuddy's like, do you want the truth, or do you just want me to tell you what will make you feel better? And she's like, what will make me feel better? So that's kind of it, where we leave off with Feds.
Mm-hmm.
It was good. It was a good episode.
Mm-hmm.
I liked how they like focused on the case, of course, but like they also made it a point to focus on the personal stuff, like roping in Brendon and Antoinette's flirting with like the case stuff, kind of, like in between.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so we don't have any listener thoughts for Rookie Feds, which is fine. I mean, there was a lot, but yeah. So I think with that, I mean, we don't have any other notes. I think we're all talked out tonight.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so if you guys want, you can find us on Twitter at the Shop Talk Pod _ or email us at shoptalktherookiepodcast@gmail.com with all of your thoughts. You can find us individually on Twitter as well. I'm at jstark804.
And I'm at Kara Hammond.
And we're also on TikTok at the Shop Talk Podcast _ the handle is a little bit different there, but it's all fun stuff over there. We also have a TeePublic store if you want merch. I need to kind of get on the merch game. I know TeePublic is having a sale, I believe this week or this weekend. So that's fun. And if you liked this episode, which we really hope you do, please leave us a rating and review. It really helps out the podcast and helps other fans find us. And yeah, next week we'll be back covering a new episode of 5 of the Rookie and Rookie Feds. Bye, everyone.
Bye, guys.
Go get him, boo.